This is Chapter 13 of The War That Saved My Life by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. In this chapter, I want you to pay attention to the concept of the war propaganda poster, World War II propaganda poster. Chapter 13. The next time we went into town, we saw an enormous poster pasted to the brick wall near the train station. Jamie stopped to stare. "What's it say?" he asked. Miss Smith read it aloud, tapping the words with her fingers as she went. "Your courage, your cheerfulness, your resolution will bring us victory." "That's stupid," I said. "It sounds like we're doing all the work." Miss Smith looked at me and laughed. "You're right," she said. "It should be," I said. "Our courage," I said. "Our courage, our cheerfulness, our resolution will bring us victory." "Absolutely," Miss Smith said. "I'll write the War Office and suggest a revision." I couldn't tell if she meant it or not. I hated when I didn't understand her. "I shouldn't underestimate you, should I?" Miss Smith went on. "How should I know?" I scowled. "Oh, come on, you cranky child," she said, touching my shoulder lightly. "You can help me pick out the veg." Jamie was tugging on my arm. He pointed across the street to Stephen White, holding on to the arm of a very old man. Actually, I saw it was the old man holding on to Stephen. "A friend of yours?" Miss Smith asked. "No," I said. "It's Billy's brother." Miss Smith nodded. "You can go and say hello." I felt funny doing it, but I did want to know why Stephen hadn't gone home with the rest of his family. I made my way across the street. Stephen saw me. He stopped, and when he did, the old man stopped too, turning odd milky eyes toward me. Stephen gestured toward the crutches. "Good," he said. "You should have gotten those before." I thought of him carrying me to the station, and my face went hot. "Who's this?" barked the old man. "Who are you talking to? Somebody new?" He was looking straight at me, the old coot. Stephen cleared his throat. "It's Ada," he said. "From our lane, Ada." The man said crossly, "That's not the way to do a proper introduction. Haven't I taught you?" "Yes, sir." Stephen took a deep breath. "Sir, may I present Miss Ada Smith from London? Ada, this is Colonel Robert McPherson, British Army retired. I live with him here." The old man stuck one of his hands into the air. "And now you shake my hand, Miss Smith," he said, "if you're from the same place the boy's from. Nobody's taught you proper manners either. You shake my hand and you say, 'Nice to meet you, Colonel McPherson.'" I touched his gnarled, dry hand. He snatched my fingers and shook them up and down. "Say, 'Nice to meet you, Colonel McPherson,'" he ordered. "Nice to meet you, Colonel McPherson," I said. "And it's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Ada Smith. If you're a friend of Stephen's, you must come round for tea." He let go of my hand. I wiped it against my skirt, not because his hand had been dirty, it hadn't, but because touching a stranger seemed like such an odd thing to do. Stephen was grinning as though he found this whole exchange funny. "How come you didn't go home?" I asked him. "Oh," he said, cutting his eyes toward Colonel McPherson. "Ma'am thought it better if I stay here a while." "No, she didn't," I said. "She said—" Stephen smacked me on the arm hard. I glared at him. He nodded his head toward the old man, frowning. "What?" I asked. "I'll talk to you later," Stephen said. "Later, okay?" "Okay," I said, still puzzled. Back on the other side of the street, Miss Smith and Jamie stood in front of a second poster. "This one's better," Jamie said. "Freedom is in peril," Miss Smith read. "Defend it with all your might." It was better. "What's might?" I asked. "I might have some tea," Jimmy said. "No. Well, yes," Miss Smith said, "but in this case it means strength, force. Defend it with everything you've got." Freedom is in peril, Jamie shouted, running ahead. He waved his arms wildly. Freedom is in peril. Defend it with everything you've got. What's freedom? I asked, as Miss Smith and I followed. I'd say it's the right to make decisions about yourself, Miss Smith said, about your life. Like morning, we decided to come to town. More like deciding that you want to be a solicitor when you grow up, or perhaps a teacher, or deciding that you'd like to live in Wales. Big decisions. If Germany invades, we'll probably still be able to go shopping, but we might not be able to decide much else. As usual, I mostly didn't understand her, but I was tired of trying. Stephen White has to live with a grumpy old man, I said. I noticed, Miss Smith said. I'm sorry to see the Colonel looking so frail. He was one of Becky's fox hunting friends, one of the huntin', shootin', and fishin' sort. I didn't realize he was so old. He made me touch his hand, I shuddered. That's just manners, Miss Smith said. So he said. Miss Smith grinned. I didn't know why. Skeptical child, she said, making me frown even harder. She grabbed the end of my plate and swung it. Your courage, your cheerfulness, your resolution. She was saying it wrong. I scowled. Will bring you victory, my dear. We'd reached the greengrocer's. Jamie waited for us, holding open the shop door. I flicked my plate away from Miss Smith. I wasn't going to ask what any more words meant. I was so tired of words, but Miss Smith looked at me and answered my question anyway. Victory, she said, means peace. Boys and girls, there may be other ideas in this chapter, but definitely I'm going to repeat this line. Your courage, your cheerfulness, your resolution will bring you victory, my dears. What a lovely message from chapter 13.